There have been a fair few battles in the gaming industry of late, with Palworld challenging Pokemon, journalists facing off against YouTubers, and most recently, Marvel rivals seemingly coming out of nowhere to jostle for Overwatch 2's crown as the champion of hero shooters. In the latter case, it's great for gamers, because it spoils us with choices for free-to-play games for both casuals and pros alike. But with competition also comes discourse, and while many are sounding the death knell of Overwatch 2, Blizzard has started to make its move on countering rivals with significant changes in how Overwatch 2 plays, with gamers returning to the franchise. Let's take a look at some of these changes, as well as the challenges that both franchises face to vie for your attention. Before we dive in, the data around player counts is very unclear, making it almost impossible to discern precise player numbers. I spent around 4 hours of time researching sales, player data, and Google Trends while comparing player counts to websites like Player.io. The data is noisy at best, especially since Blizzard is very tight-lipped about player counts on Battle.net. Therefore, I can only run on calculated estimates with some of the information in this article. So in the interest of being as accurate as possible, I won't be resorting to comparing player counts of Overwatch versus Marvel rivals, because we just don't know. What we do know, however, is that Marvel rivals exploded onto the scene in December last year, rapidly reaching an install base of 20 million players in the first few months, and it carved out a significant portion of Overwatch 2's player base, shrinking the community by almost 40%. Blizzard would later confirm that 17% have come back to the game shortly after, but the initial impact of rivals caused gamers to assume the death knell for Overwatch 2 was coming. And Blizzard themselves seem to reveal nothing about their plans to counter the unstoppable juggernaut that is Marvel. Marvel clearly needs no introduction. Comic books aside, its cinematic universe absolutely dominated the silver screen for the past 17 years, with movies constantly hitting the $1 billion in ticket sales milestone. The Marvel brand power alone would be enough to carve its way onto the market, but Rivals also features fun and intuitive gameplay mechanics, even if Overwatch heavily influenced most of these elements. The brand power and the gameplay would have a twofold effect, taking hero shooter fans away from Overwatch 2, while the brand power would draw an entirely new Marvel-based audience into the hero shooter genre. Blizzard didn't immediately respond with a knee-jerk reaction which could have unintentionally isolated its player base, and instead took their time to counter with some balances, new planned features, and just shaking things up by changing core gameplay elements such as adding in perks. Here's the major changes that they've brought just with Season 15. Perks. Players can now earn perks mid-match. These perks can be subtle changes like increased damage on a particular skill, or even change the game up further by healing a percentage of damage for those extra heals to turn the tide of battle. These perks can also be used to counter other characters in the hands of a pro, but you can't change the perk once you've picked it. They do, however, reset with every match, allowing for more flexibility in gameplay. A fresh competitive year. A complete reset of the rank system, meaning everyone starts fresh from the leaderboard. Players will now be able to earn galactic weapons as trophies to show off their achievements. And loot boxes return. When the return of loot boxes was announced, I actually thought Blizzard had lost the plot, although it turns out it does add some addiction to the game, because loot boxes have returned and you can earn them through various gameplay methods and events, in the form of both standard and legendary loot boxes. Now, I managed to complete an event and opened up around 15 loot boxes and got some decent skins, but mainly a lot of sprays and voice lines which weren't really up my alley. But it's nice to have some goodies regardless. There's more to come too. And Blizzard seems ready to continue clawing back at rivals, even cheekily promising to add a third-person mode and other features similar to the newest entry in the market. It's a clever move, and a strategic one, slowly adding in new features to keep re-engaging Overwatch gamers, rather than completely changing things and risk losing more players like we saw with the more recent Dauntless Awakening update. There's a palpable sense of excitement and a somewhat cautious optimism about Overwatch's future. Will we see the return of the cancelled PvE mode outside of the 3 missions that were released? Will we see more lore around the formation of Overwatch and the characters we've come to love? Will Mercy get a damage buff? We just can't be sure. One thing for certain is that at the end of the day, Marvel Rivals is yet to prove it can hold players in the long run. And with the current state of the industry being where the next big thing can sometimes only last a few months at best, NetEase will have to invest a lot in competing against an incumbent game and a fiercely loyal fan base, especially in the Asian markets. NetEase does seem to be ready for that battle, committing a 10-year development cycle according to a recent earnings statement released on the same day that an entire Marvel Rivals development team in Seattle was unceremoniously fired. The timing also coincided with Overwatch 2's Season 15 launch, which could prove to be a thorn in Marvel Rivals' side. NetEase isn't retrieving by downsizing though, as reported by Stephen Totillo from GameFile. NetEase is actually looking to pull international investments, meaning some other 15 studios are at risk with the plan to clean house. Further to this, NetEase is now fighting on another front with a $900 million lawsuit filed by Britannia Media, citing alleged defamation, unfair trade practices, interference with business relations, and accusations of misleading investors. NetEase has vehemently denied these accusations and will be continuing to fight the case. In my opinion, it is a critical time for both franchises, both of whom suggest there's room for both giants to eat at the table. While this is indeed true, the positive for the players are that both games will fiercely compete with each other for your attention. And Marvel Rivals will have to keep pace with an entrenched franchise and an established market share to dig in once it stops becoming the next big thing. The gaming community is a passionate one, and a lot of goodwill can be lost overnight, which we've seen at times with Overwatch 2, although they have managed to overcome a lot of these challenges. Season 15 is an answer to one of these challenges, a thought out plan of attack to reinvigorate the player base, shake things up a bit, and ultimately prove that heroes never die. Thanks so much for watching my video. If you liked it, the best way you can support What's It Like is by liking, subscribing, and sharing it with your friends. For more reviews, click on the thumbnails to the right, and for everything Nintendo, check out whatsitlike.com.au.